Okay, recording. Hi everyone, welcome to another Zoomy session. We've done quite a lot of them now, but only the past, five or so we've intentionally brought some amazing people in to shed some insight on their creative process and also if they have any ideas or shifting, plans based on what the current situation is around the world. And today's special guest is Bella Kotak, and she's an amazing, incredible photographer. And we met, don't know, in Bali.
Yeah, 2013.
It was really quite random. It was because I'd been talking online to a girl called Alex
Mm-hmm.
Cohen, if you guys know her. She's also a great photographer. And we always wanted to catch up for coffee, just in Perth. And then I was always busy. She was always busy. And then I finally got back to Perth one day and I messaged Alex. I said, I'm in Perth. What are you doing? And she said, I'm actually in Bali right now. I'm doing a creative retreat with Bella Kotak. And I was like, oh. I was like, well, I've got like a 24-hour window. She was like, come to Bali. I was like, okay. So I just flew to Bali for 24 hours. Enjoyed Bella's creative retreat, which is really cool, just for one
It was
day, and then I
really,
came back home. But that's how we met.
I love that story so much. It's so true though. You literally just came like a whirlwind, and then we just spent the whole day like exploring and ended up at the waterfall, I think, right? Oh no, you went in the morning, something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember. We went to the rice fields, just riding around in scooters, did a quick little shoot.
Yeah.
It was raining. It was a big thunderstorm
Yeah.
on that night, and then I was like, let's do a photo shoot in the thunderstorm. And I was shooting, I can't remember, Isabel maybe, but that was really
Yeah.
fun. Like full thunderstorm, trying to do a photo shoot on the street.
But
But yeah,
that's what the days when you can like fly so quickly.
so that's how we met, and then we've met a couple of times since then. We've done little collaborations here and there. Um, I love that photo shoot that we did once. Again, our meetings always seem to be within a 24-hour time limit. But I was near you. I was in Oxford,
Mhm.
and I really had this. I needed to get this photograph created to go in a window display in Perth, and I didn't have any ideas yet. But I knew Bella was around, and I thought, I want Bella to be the model. Let's go into the forest because so many like amazing locations around you. Let's go in the forest, and it was for a restaurant called the Flower Factory in Perth, if anyone knows that one. And so I thought, let's do a flower themed thing. So we had Bella in this dress. She
But
was
like
twirling in
baking
a.
flour, not flowers, but
Oh
like
yeah, sorry, yeah,
cookie
actual
flour.
flower. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I get quite bad hay fever. So going to the forest was already bad for me. And then you're gluten intolerant, but we still threw bags and bags of flour over you. So it was a terrible time for all of us. But we ended up with a really cool photo out of it. Anyway, that's how we've
Mm.
met.
You're right. Every time
But
we like meet, it's like 24 hours, smash something out.
yeah, or just go for a
Mm.
little canoe ride. Oh wait, what's it called? Punting?
Yeah. Hunting.
Yeah, so that's how we know each other, and I've always been like such a fan of Bella's work. I'm sure if you guys saw like my Instagram story or the post in the group, you saw how crazy and imaginative her work is. So that's why
Oh,
I thought
thank
it'd be
you.
good to have a chat with you. How are you? How are you going? How's it been
Yeah,
for you? Just
I'm doing really good.
yeah. Has
Yeah.
it? Have you been in lockdown or anything like that?
Yeah. So today is day 24. Um,
Whoa.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've gone out for a walk here and there, but the reality is that we're mainly at home. We're not really seeing many people. But I live with my family. So it's actually been like quite nice and a bit crazy at the same time, but nice that there's other people around.
Yeah. Have you been creating much, or what have you been working on in this downtime?
So because we're kind of stuck in one place, so usually what happens is my partner and I, we are always traveling whenever we're together because he's in the US and I'm in the UK and he's visiting right now. And we were actually incidentally supposed to be in Bali right now for another creative retreat. Um, so I'm using this time to catch up on all the edits and also connect with photography again. I always shoot with models and create with models and my friends. And in the beginning, when I first started my photography journey, I actually started off with self portraits. And I slipped away from it because it's actually a little bit scary and it's so much work to do a self portrait. But I figured, like, since we're home and there's, the countryside so close by, I started to get back into self portraits again. If only just to stay creative and have the camera in your hands. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Have you found is there any difference in the way you're taking self-portraits now versus when you first started out?
Hugely. I know so much more now in terms of lighting and posing and sort of just like framing than I did before. So I'm definitely a lot more pickier, which makes it a little bit harder. And it's really weird to be in front of the camera because if you're shooting, you're always like, oh, move that, move your arm, tuck your shoulder in, do this, because you're seeing as a photographer from a really like graphic point of view how the pose is. So when you're in front of the camera, it's really interesting to kind of like create those shapes yourself. And then it feels really silly, but then it translates really nicely sometimes on the frame. So now I kind of really understand a little bit about what I put my models through.
How are you doing this technically? Is it with a remote or with
Yeah.
like screen sharing through your phone? Because I know you can do that now as well.
Oh, I think that's so smart. I don't know how to do that yet. I'm not like the most tech savvy. So yeah,
What
it's
do
just
you, oh wait, are you shooting these self-portraits on the phase one?
no.
Okay, okay. I was gonna say that might be intense, but
I think
what are
that'd
you
be just a
shooting?
little bit too intense. I know I'm just using EOS R.
Oh, that's what I'm using at the moment as like a little test into the mirrorless world.
What do you
But
think?
I like it, but I think it's also because it's just fresh and it feels different. And I've
Mm,
definitely gone through periods where like photography doesn't really feel that fun because it's just what I do for work now. You know, I just clicking that button so many times and it just doesn't feel special. And then just switching over to like a camera that has a new feel and there's a few different things about it. It's like, now I'm excited to play around again. So that's been a good shift.
that's actually such a good point. Yeah, you're right. It actually really is important to try out new gear, if only in case it sparks something else in you.
Mm.
So yeah, so with this Canon, it's not actually even mine. So this is my husband's, the EOS R, and he has a 50 millimeter 1.2, and that lens is so nice. So I feel like that's what sparked the whole self-portrait thing because I figured, yeah, I wanted to explore that setup a little bit more. So yeah, if you're ever feeling a little bit like stagnant, maybe rent a camera, rent a new lens. Yeah, try something different.
I think that's a good tip, and that's something that I do when I'm on tour, especially. It's just setting parameters for yourself because it just forces you to do something different. And I'm lucky with what I do with music touring in that every concert kind of is the same thing every night. So I can just experiment and it's not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't work out because it's just the same thing over and over again. So some days I'll be like, okay, I'm only allowed to use this 40 millimeter lens and nothing else today. And then when you force yourself to do things like that, then you start moving differently or you start framing things differently because you're forced to. So I think that's good. But with the EOS R, I'm very sure that you can just get an app on your phone called
Mm.
Canon Connect or something like that, and then there's a bit of lag, but you could even set that up like on the floor and be able to look at your pose and still use the
Wow.
remote. I reckon you should try
Okay, I'll try that today. We're doing a session today.
that.
That's really
But
good.
what I've always what I've always wondered with, like, I think in the, I mean, I think you started up in the, like, the Flickr age, right?
Mm.
Where, you know, there were a lot of girls in particular, exploring photography using self-portraits as their medium. Like, and my old housemate was Caitlin Worthington. We used to live together, and she also has had so many amazing self-portraits. And I always wondered, how are you doing that with something like a 50mm 1.2 with the focus, and how do you actually, what's your process?
Um, Honestly, it's the same as if I was shooting with any other model. I just move the camera around. So whenever I try to shoot anyway, I give myself options. So initially, the first 20 shots are just me moving the camera in different locations, trying to find the shot. And then once I've found a spot, I'll stay in that place and elaborate on it. I always tell people like not to get too, when they first start shooting, not to get too, because we always have like an idea of the picture that we want to capture. So I tell people not to get too like stuck into that idea because they might miss out on something even more beautiful that they hadn't even thought of, but that works with that scene. So yeah, I just move the camera around, pose, and then go through, analyze which one I like the most, and then leave it there and elaborate on it.
So with your new normal shoots, with your big elaborate shoots, what do they mostly come from? Are they, for example, what what you're posting on Instagram, or what the work you're putting out, how much of that is like a commission from a client, or how much of it is just you've just wanted to do something?
Okay, so it's kind of like 80-20. So what I put out on my on my Instagram is pretty much the kind of work that I want to get back. I do shoot like a range of stuff, but I don't show everything that I shoot, only because it wouldn't really work for aesthetics. And I'm actually trying to get a certain type of client as well. So 80% is honestly personal work, but that's really the part that I love the most. I always make time for personal work and always experiment in that space because that's my picture photography. And then the 20% is the clients that hired me based on that personal work, that wanted me to execute my vision with their products, or for them. So for example, recently I worked with the Birmingham Royal Ballet here in the UK, and they're a ballet company, and I've worked with them twice now. And they completely trust my creative vision. And in fact, our latest shoot was actually super challenging because I wanted to shoot outside, except that day it was raining and we didn't have like much of a plan B. But the whole team on their end trusted me so much to execute something. But that's just because I constantly, and I felt confident as well to put that vision forward and to push for it because I do so much personal work. Like I've tested in so many various conditions that when push came to actual shove with a client, I knew that I was able to execute it, even though I was like freaking out inside on that day. And of course, the images turned out great. It's so
When you said
important.
when you said 80-20, I assumed you were going to say 80% client and 20% personal, because I think that's a more common proportion for most photographers. So that's super brave and inspiring that you back yourself to create, to just create what you want and know that clients will come to you based on that. Has it always been like that? And how long did it take for it to start paying off? Because I imagine it'd be pretty scary for an emerging photographer to kind of, back yourself that hard.
That's true. So I think in the beginning, so to like go right back, I actually started out being an architect. So I studied architecture and I worked in architecture for a few years. And photography I picked up as like a way to learn Photoshop and grow that. So even from the very beginning, my photography was never ever really about business or making a living from it. It was kind of like a thing I did on the side. And I was always shooting personal work and just work that I was curious about because I didn't know what was possible. And then the more I kept doing it, and I left my architecture job to support this full time because it was like the passion. Um, and when I started to take on loads and loads of clients, I realized that I wasn't happy, and I was really struggling mentally with my mental health because I wasn't. I felt like I wasn't being true to myself in the reason that I picked this camera up. I wasn't creating work that I was particularly proud of, and I didn't really want to go to like shoots or do weddings, and I like kept saying yes even though I didn't want to. Um, so the 2013 creative retreat in Bali that we met was actually me stepping away from my real life for 1 month. I saved up enough money to go. It was the first time I ever did anything like that. And it was honestly the most formative month in terms of my creative journey, because it meant that I was away from everything for 1 month. I spent 2 weeks kind of like replenishing my energy. And then after that, I was shooting the girls that I was with, but in my style. And I didn't even know what my style was. I was just like doing whatever I felt like. And that freedom of just doing whatever I wanted was so fulfilling that I made like this promise to myself that I never wanted to get back to that place of burnout. So moving forward, everything I do now, even though a lot of it's personal work, I found ways to like monetize on it so that I can still keep creating for myself while also getting support from people online who might like my style, who might want to learn from me. And so yeah, it's like a win-win. I can still like create what I want and then help people at the same time and make money in maybe not the most conventional way, but you're still making money and you're still doing what you love. So it's like a win-win. So now I have like an education platform, and I sell my color tuning in like presets, and yeah, how I edit photos, like yeah, and I have like a whole support system that you learn and then you share. So, and I like that. I like that so much more.
Yeah, and it's when you put it that way, it's quite simple. And I think that's been a really inspiring thing that has a theme that's come through with the people that we've been talking to on these Zoom calls is, if they are all people that are so passionate and dedicated to what they do, so much so that it flows on into other things. For example, yesterday we had on my friend Samantha Gash, who's an ultra marathon runner. So you look at that and you might think, okay, well that's a very niche thing. How can you base a career out of being an ultra marathon runner? But the way she's done it is she's just smashed it. She's like done all the hardest desert marathons in the world. She has collected so many amazing experiences and has gone through so much mental resilience, like to the point where she's such an expert on that topic that now she's invited to do corporate speaking all around the world to inspire people, and she rallies communities around.
Where's my mum?
Hello.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah, like so it doesn't have to be this narrow thing, and I think that's what we're all like hopefully discovering now, and it's becoming easier to share your knowledge and do things through the internet now. So I think that's a good lesson for everybody. You might think that you just have to do everything that comes your way because no one's going to hire you for the thing that you actually love doing. But actually, if you stick to that, if you stick to what you love doing, you're always learning, and the value that you can provide to other people through you doing what you love just grows and grows.
That's so true, because you don't even know where that's even going to lead you. Like, you have no idea. Like, a friend of mine, for example, really inspired me because he really likes donuts. And he has like he loves donuts. And and he actually moved to a place where there's an amazing donut shop like down his road. Like, he did that on purpose. And then he would like go to that shop and like buy their donuts and shoot their donuts in like a really beautiful way. And it ended up turning out into a book. So he would like shoot these donuts and share them online. Everybody loved them. He'd sell these prints of these donuts. And then the donut shop, he showed them what he was doing and they loved it. And then eventually he made a book and they're selling it at the shop and in stores.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, if he can do that, then yeah, I'm set.
If the donut boy can make it work, I can make it work. I
Mm.
thought, just before we go into any kind of technical things, I just want to ask one more, just talk about one more area, which is, I think I find with everything that you do, I've noticed over the years, it's very community focused. I find everything you do. I've seen you like run creative retreats and workshops all around the world, and you have a Facebook group that's very open, and everybody's, you know, sharing work. And is that something you've been like actively trying to do? Is that always like create a sense of community around what you do?
Yeah, I actually started all of that only because of my husband. So my husband is Pratik Naik. He goes by Solstice Retouch on a variety of platforms, and he's a retoucher. So if you ever want to learn anything about Photoshop, like shameless plug, but he's freaking amazing. Um, but he's super community driven. He's great at just like connecting with people, and he was the one that inspired me to start a group and sort of like band my collective of people together. So it only started out as just like a thing on the side. And then what's happened is it kind of became a place where I was able to really see the impact I was having on people, because they would share their work and it was influence my, stuff that I would put out, and then stuff that each other would put out. So even though people were like sort of thinking, oh, like I would like to do that, but it seems really like out of my league, when you see other people doing that, you feel like, oh my God, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And you just feel more willing to give it a go. Um, and I think something that I've really learned from that is that your community in so many ways gives you so much power, in the sense of um, uh, like financial power a little bit. Because now if I create products, I immediately have a market that I've cultivated that I can target to. That I know would be supportive, because that's why they're there. They're there to support. Which is the same way like I'm a part of loads of other groups because I love what other people do. So I think that's really important too. Like just to have, but like, if you're really thinking of it from a business point of view, but initially it's really all about just bringing together a love of fairy tales and love of fantasy, and connecting like-minded individuals. Because I meet so many cool people just through that.
Mm.
So.
I thought it'd be really cool to go through one of your shoots from the very start to the finish. So when I say very start, I mean maybe you could talk about where the inspiration came from, if there was any kind of sketches or planning that needs to happen, like just from the very point of this idea comes into your head. And then you can talk about that, and then we could take it through. If you have something handy, we could attempt screen share, and you could go through the Photoshop process as well. I think that would be
Yeah.
really interesting and probably confusing. I can tell you now that once she shows her Photoshop layers, I do not know what's going on. So don't feel bad if no one else knows. But that's the point of you going through it, because I think and show people that maybe it's not that scary.
Okay, so I actually did get one. I've got 2 files here. But I thought I would show one from the beginning, and then you can see it to the end. So rather than showing you like the after and then going through the journey, I thought it'd be quite fun if you guys saw like the beginning and then you see how it ends.
Okay. And I'm also gonna, okay, feel free, anyone, if you want to like ask questions about what she's doing on screen, feel free to just unmute yourself and yell out anything, because I won't be talking. I don't think.
Okay, should I do that right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Oh, by the way, so there's a little bit of a nipple showing in the first one. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Okay, cool. I'll show
Run
this.
away now if you're not.
No, the nipple. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. All right, so primarily I work in Photoshop. I work in 2 programs. I work in Capture One initially whenever.
One quick second. Can everyone see this? Because I can't. Oh, wait. I think it's because I pinned you. Let me just click something. No.
Go view options. At the
View
top.
options. Okay. But mine still says, I can't see anything. Mine just has a black screen that says Bella has started screen sharing. Is everyone else, am I the only one? Is everyone else good? Oh, wow. I've really messed it up now. I've clicked so many things and I don't know what's going on.
We'll wait for you, don't worry.
Okay, I can see, but I can still see your face, but it's, wait, no. How come everyone else can see and I can't?
Should I start it again? Like, should I stop sharing and then I do a new share?
Maybe.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that now. Okay. So there's that, and I'll do another. I think you should literally just click this. Select a window or application. Yeah, desktop.
Okay, I'm good now.
Hey! Okay, fantastic. So you can see the screen, right?
Yes. Matt's just, someone's calling me a grandma on the internet. I didn't do anything, okay? I didn't do anything different between those two tries. I didn't touch it. It was just a black screen before, and now it's there.
Okay. All right, so this picture was created in my living room. I really wanted to create this outside. This is my friend Lucy, who I've shot with since the beginning of both of our journeys, actually. And she's I came across her through Model Mayhem. So I don't know if you guys have that where you are, but we do have it here. And back in the day, it was like the place to go for freelance models. So she was like a gem of a find. And that day that we shot this, it was pissing down with rain outside, so we decided to shoot it in my study, in my living room. So the background here is one that I painted myself, and I have two lights. They're both ProPhoto A1s. So the one set up over here is pretty much just like bouncing the light through the ceiling and creating this soft diffuse light in this direction. And then over here, I have another A1 literally duct taped onto a softbox. And that's giving this lovely soft diffuse light. So it looks like it's pointing at her, but the reality is it's sort of like put just in front of her. So that we're getting like more of the feathered light that comes from the edge of a softbox, not like the hotter light that comes from the center of it. So that's it. I shot her against black because I felt like I'm going to Photoshop her into a different background, into a different scene. I didn't really know what it was going to look like, but initially the main focus for me from that photo shoot was to make sure that I got flow in her skirt and movement from her body and expression from her face. So I'm always looking for those. Often they don't ever end up in the same image. So it just so happened in this one, I really love her expression, her body, and just the movement. But sometimes it's not, sometimes often it will be the case where the face is, I like it from another shot, and then I like the body from another shot, and I like the skirt from another shot. And I'm always really open to that whenever I go through my selects. So in that sense, this was really easy because I just liked everything in one shot. So the first thing I did was cut her out. I'm going to just turn this later on so you can see. I pretty much like cut her out, and to do that I simply use a pen tool and a layer mask. After that, it was a case of building up the background behind her. So I started off with brown because it was one of the colors on her, so that's like a quick connection there. And then I started building up with different layers and textures. So these things, if I just take that off multiply and put that on normal, it looks like that.
Where do you find these textures? Like where do you go to source
honestly
all this stuff?
like, yeah, anywhere really. So there's a bunch of sites online that you can just find textures. A lot of these are just from like DeviantArt. Like back in the day, they would allow you to download textures. I have a folder of them. And then if you go to a website called unsplash.com, you can actually get free photography textures and it's basically Unsplash's website where you can use those images pretty much like license free to do whatever you like. So it's for photographers by photographers. It's like a pay it forward kind of a site. So I should get some of my textures from there too. And then there's obviously places like Shutterstock and stuff like that, and Adobe Stock as well. They'll have textures. And then another thing is you can actually go ahead and even just like create your own, because this could literally be, if you're shooting with like a 50 or 35 millimeter, drop the aperture down to like 1.4 or 1 point whatever, and then just blur the lens and get like, yeah, different colors. So I've done that so many times. I'll just like go into the garden and just take different shots, because you can then move those colors in Photoshop whichever way you want. So yeah, if you can't find textures, go create your own. It's not that scary. So at this point, I was literally just throwing things on. I really like this blue one. I came across this. I'll turn that into normal. So that's what that looks like. I came across this online somewhere, and so for this, I pretty much just blurred it and actually shifted the color so it was a bit more blue. And then when I use my blending modes, which you can see over here, I always explore the blending modes because you can get some really interesting options just by doing that. So this is on screen, set at 50%, and I really like this kind of like peaking blue in the corner, especially because she's sort of like looking at it. So I just like duplicated that layer again because I felt that it felt like a peak of sky coming through. And then that then inspired the next texture, which is this one, which is literally sky. And I thought, well, that works really nicely. So this is what it looked like, and then this is what it looks like with the blending mode set at soft light. So it just blends really nicely into that whole scene. So once I was sort of happy with how that looks, and at this point it's really, really important to make sure that you know that the colors sort of make sense, because it makes your work in post-production so much easier. So shift the hue and saturation and play with those colors initially just to like create a balanced shot initially. So even like you can see right now, the background isn't overpowering in terms of saturation or intensity. It's kind of sitting quite as a nice flat kind of palette, which is a great place you want to be when you're starting off your color turning journey. But before that, I need to finish the composition of this. Like I need to finish everything before I go to color turning. So I don't know what I did there. Oh, okay. So here I think I made a mistake on this layer, but I fix it later, you'll see. I was just separating her from the piece which had crumpled up because that wasn't really how I envisioned that piece to look on her. And then I thought her nipple would be scandalous on Instagram, so I just like covered it with a bit of lace. Like I just grabbed a bit and just pulled it over. And then I just darkened it with a curve adjustment over here. And then, oh, sorry, sorry, I promised you no boo, but we're zooming in. And then here I decided, because you can't really see the piece that well, I grabbed a bit of the piece from like here or somewhere else and started like bringing it up so that it looks more real. The arm was too dark, so I lightened it up. What else? Oh, like starting to fix this little mistake that I made. I'm not sure. We'll just keep going. Yeah. This is something as well. What is this? Okay. I'm clicking on all these layers, but I don't see anything happening. What was I doing on this?
The skirt, the dress is changing a bit.
Yeah, there. So there's a line over here, which is, giving away that this is not a magical outfit. Who wants to see a seam? Get out of here. So that's gone. And then, okay, so the strap is here, so we're getting rid of that. And to make all of these, like at this point, the cleaning, I'm using the clone stamp tool and the heel tool. So you can find the clone stamp and heel tool over here on your left. So there's a clone stamp and then there's a heel. So those are the two tools I pretty much like use whenever I'm in this cleaning phase. So you can see that her wings are a little bit battered. And so anything distracting, I'm just getting rid of. I'm gonna zoom out again and see what's happening here. Oh, so in this layer, because I'd cut out her hair, it looks really fake. So you're always going to have wispies. So that's when I go ahead and draw them in with the brush. And I make sure to like change the brush setting so that there's like a fade at the end. So it literally looks like hair. So you go ahead and just do that. And even though from far away
No,
you
I've
don't.
never seen. I didn't realize that's how people did that. You know,
Oh,
I've had times where I've had to like cut out people from backgrounds, and I'm zooming in so far, trying to like keep as much real wispy hair as possible. I didn't realize that
mate,
you can just draw it in and it looks okay.
mate, save yourself some time. Like,
Wow.
literally, how did this look? Let's see. Uh, that. See, like, look at that. Like, that's not like the most. But then if you're working, you gotta work quickly. So you just like go as close as you can, and then just go at it with a brush and just throw those wispies in. Done.
That's a great tip. I would never have realized that's not real and you've drawn that in.
That'll be $20. Thanks.
Do you have any tips for making your own brushes?
I don't actually make a lot of brushes, so I wish I could like go ahead and like show you a lot of that. This is literally one of the only ones I can do. To do that, you want to go into your brush. Make sure your brush is selected, and then go to, I think it's this one. Yeah, it says that. Then you want to make sure that shape dynamics is selected, and somewhere here, control is on fade. And I think you want to like set that on something. I'm not sure. Let me see. Oh no, maybe this one's fade. There you go. See the end there? And then I think you kind of like, yeah, make it longer or shorter there. Also, I think right
Oh,
now the brush I have isn't ideal. Let's bring it down. There we go. So let's change the size of that. There. So now you can see the wisp thing, right? What's this? I don't know what this bit at the end is. But that's pretty much how you would do it. Like you'd play in here, and it's under fade. So yeah, but whenever I'm working normally, I always make sure that this is off and shape dynamics is off, because I want like an even brush, because otherwise you're gonna get like some weird lines, and you just want to make sure you have complete control over every stroke that you do. And then yeah, just like literally just cleaning. So that's done. So when I'm happy with how that looks, it looks something like this. Here in this layer, this is the eyes. So I just wanted to like add some brightness back into the eyes. And to do that, I pretty much, I actually drew them in. This is white, and I set that on overlay. So I just like brushed white in there. But another really great way to do eyes is if you go down here to curves and lift up the curve. And then you can invert it and then just brush that lightness back in wherever you want. So that's another really great way to kind of like get those eyes popping. Okay, so I'm gonna close that, and now we're gonna build up on the color. And I really hope I'm gonna go ahead and turn. Oh, okay. Well, you can see what it looks like, but I'll turn it off. Close that. Okay. All right. How's it going so far? Is it really interesting? Hey. Okay.
yeah, it's awesome to see. How important is it for you to do all these tiny little details like smoothing out a feather and brightening an eye?
Honestly, I'm just insane. Like, let's be honest, I'm crazy. But I envision that these pieces will one day be in an exhibition or in a book. And so whenever I like go into detail on that, that's what I'm holding to heart. That I want to create something that I want to see in an exhibition or want to see in a book. So I'm going to put the work in now so I don't have to do it later. But the reality is you don't see it on Instagram. So if you're creating something pretty much for Instagram or social media, you don't need to go into that much detail. But if you see it for something bigger in the future, then yeah, do you.
But I think things like, taking out the seam of the dress, like, most people won't notice that. But when
No,
you
they don't.
combine that with the feathers and the eye, like it all adds up, these little 1% things. And then, if you add all that up by the time you have your final image, it's like 10 or 20% better than then, you know, and you do maybe subconsciously, you notice it.
That's really, really true. You're absolutely right. I definitely think my attention to detail has become like on another level since I first started. So when I was looking at my earlier work, it just wasn't there. But now I literally micromanage everything on a set. And then I then take it on another level when I'm in Photoshop as well. But yeah, it's interesting. I really envy those people like you who can just take a camera, shoot, and then color grade in like 3 steps. Then you.
It's easy, but it also means that anyone can do it. Whereas you have the skill set that is super
No.
rare and
No. It's you say that, but I can't do it. So yeah, I can't. I struggle with that. So not anyone can do it. Okay, so now we're gonna start off with color toning. Because I really liked how this looks, I wanted to like make it a little bit more like old, tiny, crinkly, a little bit more texture. So this is a texture that I found. I actually don't know. I think it was on Splash. If you type in like coffee stains, it's a coffee stained paper, or some, I don't know what it is, but I like the look of it. So I pretty much just threw that on and changed the blend mode to overlay and dropped it to like around 50% because I thought that looked quite nice. And then I like started building up off of it. So the first step is always like desaturating an image because then you can like build up off it. And then pretty much just that. So desaturating, using selective color at this point to warm it up a little bit, curves, color balance, and all of these things you can find here on the bottom right of the Photoshop, of the layers panel. And they're all here. So everything I pretty much use is here, except for the textures and like brushes and stuff that I do on top. Just to this place where it looks a little bit too green. Oh. This was me desaturating the image and then placing it under soft lights, blend mode, just to play. I liked how that looked. And a little bit more play, selective color, color balance. And then going through these, because if I go into a lot of detail, it's quite like crazy. But I'm actually working on a new series of PSDs I'm going to make available to people where I actually go through my color tuning steps. So if you want to learn how to color tune like this, then yeah, keep an eye on my Instagram because I'll be sharing it there. But everything I pretty much use is that. And at this point, whenever I color tone, all I do is I'm looking at the skin and I'm looking at what's happening in the background and I'm looking at what's happening on elements of the photo. Because I try and like make sure that I color tone as much as I can globally, so it makes sense. But then now and then I'll pay attention to how the colors work on particular parts of the image. So for example, here, like I felt this was suddenly too bright, so I made an adjustment just for that to tone down the wings and just make it feel a little bit more, I don't know, less plastic looking and a little bit more real looking. Okay, so then that's done. I was really happy with how that looked. So I went ahead and added a contrast, and this is usually what I do at the end. So that's contrast. And then once everything is color toned, and you guys, this was pretty tame. Like usually this can go on for like a while. But once I was really happy with that, I then go ahead and send it to Pratik, my husband, the retoucher guy who fixes most of the mistakes I make. And then I also have it's actually open in another PSB, which I don't have open right now, but I'll just go ahead and show you. So this was a final piece. So in the end, I went ahead and just liquefied it a little bit, like I pulled her skirt out a little bit more. I cleaned up the wings because I felt like, you know, it just felt like I wanted them to be a bit tidy. And then the little mistake that I'd made over here in the corner, I got rid of that. And yeah, sorted out the skin a little bit as well. Okay.
Wow.
So that was before and after.
Yeah, go from the very first.
So this is the before and this is the after. Oh, and also the end of the wing. So the wing was clipped and I added that back from another part of the wings. There you go. Ta-da!
Amazing. That is such a cool process.
Thank you.
It's
a bit crazy.
Do you so did you envision that did you envision that your final picture when you were, dreaming up the concept of the photo to begin with? Where did the inspiration start? Was it like from the wings, or, did you
Yeah.
have an idea for a shot with wings and then you thought, okay, now I need to go find the wings? Or did you see the wings first and then work out what you can do with it?
So a lot of my photos start off really organically with what I have around me. I'm somebody who really struggles to like envision a particular vision and then source the items. That's just not how I work. I work best when I have everything kind of around me and then I piece it all together. So in this case, I reached out usually around springtime, so around now. I'm always reaching out to designers that I want to collaborate with, that I came across on Instagram or Etsy, and just ask them, hey, would you like to collaborate? And then just like that, I'll start building up a relationship and they'll send me things. So the wings are from a designer called Fairy Taz. She's based in Netherlands, and the harness is actually from a designer that I've recently started working with called Lori Sun, and she's based out near New York in America. And yeah, so everyone just sends me like their pieces, and then I will start putting them together and piecing together a character. And then when Lucy came that day, it was just a case of, well, I really want to shoot with these wings, and I didn't even know what it would look like. We tried 2 different dresses on her. It just felt a little bit too contrived. And then the gold harness just seemed really something that would look cool. But again, I just work like that. If it's around me, I will figure it out. So yeah, you just create the opportunity. You plan I try and plan as much as I can by having things with me, and then I just create the opportunity with what I have. So
I think the other thing to note is, even though you've created this and put all this effort into something that's just personal work and it's for yourself, now that you have it created, there is the opportunity that somebody may love this image and want to license it for their book cover or something like that. So it's, there's always value in making all of this stuff, even when no one has asked you to.
you're not wrong. I actually sell a lot of my images for book covers, and I also license them out. So actually a really cool thing that's happened really recently was 2 of my personal pieces got licensed for a cruise ship. So you never know where interest comes from. So yeah, there's actually a huge market in licensing. So if you do create personal work, then it definitely is worth looking into licensing companies and agents, because those could end up in like magazines or adverts or anywhere. It's really interesting. That's a whole other thing.
Can I just ask something real quick?
Mm.
First of all, really beautiful piece, and I loved like how you showed how you did everything in Photoshop. And I just wondered, because you said it was quite an easy edit. You could go on for much longer and longer. I'm just wondering, like, how long did it take you to edit this piece?
So this one actually was one of the ones that I created on a whim. So it actually took like only, I would say like 45 minutes, which wasn't that long. I was watching Game of Thrones and it somehow came together really quickly. But often an image would take somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours from start to finish. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it would be much longer.
Yeah, me too.
Based on all that stuff, I was like, wow, that's really intricate.
So when I was creating this picture, at the same time I was editing another set of images for a film. Like for a whole separate thing, and those were so intricate, and it was giving me such a headache trying to figure out how they should look. So this was something I literally just did for fun, and it's amazing how fast it came together. It didn't even take that long. Yeah.
We've got a little bit of time left, so if anyone wants to like shout anything out, feel free. Or Bella, do you reckon you have time to quickly go through the other image you were talking about, or did you have another?
Yeah, that one's less intense. So
Okay.
It looks like this. So this is the after. And actually, yeah, this one might be really fun too. I'm gonna turn. Okay, yeah, I'll get ready for this. I'll try and go a bit faster on this one because it
Well,
covers.
I'm only saying quickly, just keeping in mind your time. So
Yeah,
if
no,
you have all the time in the world, feel free. Everyone can stay.
yeah, it won't take too
Someday.
long. This one wasn't that crazy as the other one. Let's turn all this off. Where is it? Okay. Okay.
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. So this is the second image. All right. Get comfy. So this was the image that I really liked. I like the reason why I chose this is because I really love the expression on her face. But I wasn't really feeling the rest of the scene. We shot this in California last year, and I felt like the background wasn't really like giving me the attention. It was distracting. I felt the background was super distracting from what was happening here. Also, Vanessa's expression was like a half expression. It didn't feel like it was committed. So I changed it to another picture where I felt like I loved her expression and mood there. So to do that, I pretty much just used layer mask. So I'm going to disable it so you can see what it looks like. So this is the image. This is another photo where I really love Vanessa's, like her body and her expression there. So I'm going to enable that layer mask. And that's how that looked. I always work with layer masks only because if I mess up, I can go back and bring or take away any element of an image. I have complete control. It's a very non-destructive way of working. And so I try and do that as much as I can moving forward. So these are all from different photographs. So I expanded on the side over here. Oh, also you'll notice that I extended the crop to what I wanted it to be. So I wanted them to kind of like play a center focus. So I extended the crop slightly to suit that. And then to show you what these images look like, it's just like, pieces from other photos.
When you're shooting this, do you have in mind that you might want to piece it all together? And
Yes.
then does that affect how you're shooting? Like, do you try and not move from the same spot for, you shoot a whole bunch here, not moving the camera too much just in case you need it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So, how I told you guys initially, like I'll spend like the first 20 shots moving and just like free flowing. So I'll shoot from like the bottom, from the shot, like move from the side, trying to find the shot. And then once I find it, I will stay there and then elaborate on what's happening in front of me. So in this case, I moved around a little bit and then I just liked the shooting from where I stood at that point. And then I'll make the girls move, give me different options, and then I'll always make sure to shoot several shots around them so that if I decide to expand the frame, I have that information and I'm not making it up. So I did that. So I do that for every single shoot as much as possible. So yeah.
It's always better to work from the actual data and the actual image that's there. Is it always better to just have that instead of having to like find some random tree that you have to add in later?
It's so true. It's exactly that. So you prepare enough. It's same like what I was saying with the clothes. Like you just make sure you have it, and if you use it or not, it doesn't matter. At least you have it. So because I was telling you that I felt the background was too distracting, I got another background from another image. So this is from the side, like when I moved the camera to the side, and I just thought the foliage looked okay enough. So I grabbed that and just put it over there, and I darkened it so that it would like be darker and not stand out so much. Same here, disable that. It's just another image. Put it there, and then blur it as well so that it accounts for the focal point. Because if it was sharp, it doesn't make sense. That's not how the focus works. So I used another curves adjustment layer to clip onto just that layer to darken just that point. And I did the same here and used curves again to clip it. And one more on the top end over there. So once I felt that was kind of, okay-ish, I kind of left it at that and decided to, in this spot, I think I like deleted this because I didn't like how it looked. I felt like it looked a bit too heavy. So I felt like that was a bit more natural. And then what else did I do? Oh, so I desaturated it. So I started to, so this is me setting it up. So this is me not color toning. This is just me setting up the base image to then move forward with color toning. So you know how I told you guys that let me see, what did I say? Anyway, this is just me desaturating the background to create like a nice overall flat color palette that I can then build up from. And her dress seemed too bright, so I reduced that as well. So once I was happy with that, I then went in and did her eyes a little bit. There we go, brighten them up. And this is me cleaning. So I'll show you, how can I show you what this looks like? I don't really know. Solid color, white. Is that underneath? Yeah. So this is me like cleaning different parts of the image. If I turn that off, so that's what that looks like. So anything like her hair, anything on her dress, what else? Just like these tiny little things that you don't really notice, but I do notice. So I take them all away and just clean it up. So once that is done, that's when I start having fun with color toning, because now the image is like set. And yeah, color toning always starts off with me by desaturating the image slightly. This is desaturated at 20%. And I always desaturate because I find that if you do not desaturate, you can go from like 0 to intensity in color quite quickly, especially with the way I color edit. So I always desaturate, and then I give myself a little bit more room to play with my adjustments. So I'm playing with all the adjustments that I showed you earlier that you can find over here. So I'm using curves, color palettes, essentially just looking at what's happening on the face, on the body, in the background, trying to figure out if I want to go warmer, if I want to go cooler. It makes sense to go warmer, so I started going in that direction. I have, you know, I told you guys that I have my color toning presets. So I actually only started selling those because I use them myself. Like I would create a color adjustments and then just turn them into an action, because it made my work so much easier in post-production when it comes to this stage. So this is my honey fawn action, which gives a really beautiful, soft, like, I don't know, caramel look. And I really liked it. So it's a really, I just like tried a few different actions to see which color direction it could go in. And I really like this one. So I thought, oh, I'll elaborate on that then. So I don't leave it at 100%. I actually dropped this particular one to 50%. And then I started to play with it. So I began to take some of the redness out of the shadows and go a little bit more cooler. I added some light using a texture here in the corner. And this is literally just at 5%. So you barely see it, but it's like, it's just, there's just something there, which I quite like. This is just a global warming texture. It's just, you know, like a brush tool thrown on there. And then, yeah, a few more things: selective color, channel mixer, levels, a vignette. So when I'm happy with how it's kind of going, that's when I'll throw a vignette in. And a vignette for me is pretty much just a curves adjustment layer set to Gaussian blur in the layer mask. And all this does is darken the edges of an image, because for me, the main focus that I want people's eye as a viewer to go to is what's happening in the center. So I always try and darken the edges, because I want to control exactly where, when a person looks at my piece, where the eye goes to. So that's why I always put a little bit of effort into the eyes and the expressions, and make those brighter, because I want the, you know, focus to go there. A person's eye always goes to the brightest part of the image. But that's just my personal style. I know there's so many other photos that I really love the aesthetic of that are more flat toned. So that's not like, there's no right or wrong way. It's just a preference. And then, yeah, just tiny, tiny adjustments at this point. So this is, you know, just a selective color and another warming color texture over here. And then I'll turn this off and on, and you can see the final clean. So the last layer always has like a final polish. And that's when I will just go ahead and any color adjustments that, you know, might be a little bit wrong, I'll go ahead and correct them. I'll turn this off, and you can see here that, especially on Jessica's face, I didn't really touch the texture of her face too much, mainly because I'm not very good at it, and my husband is, so he did that with dodging and burning. So yeah, in the final stage, we'll just like go ahead and tidy up anything that's distracting, and that's it. So if I go,
Amazing.
yeah, oh, there. So this is the before, which is a totally other image, and that's the after.
So cool. Thanks so much for going through all of that. I think it's just so cool to see how much effort goes into a single image. People would never know.
And that's exactly how it should be. They shouldn't know.
I think we've taken up a lot of your time, so thanks so much for dropping by. Good
Thank you
luck
for
with the
having
rest
me.
of quarantine. If anybody wants to kind of learn, you know, your process and the way you're doing, do you have any resources out there?
Yeah, so you should go check out thecolorlab.com. So it's just thecolorlab.com. We actually rebranded it this year, so I'm like so excited about it. And over there you will find my color tuning actions and presets, and not just mine, but I actually team up with other photographers. So there's 2 other ones I'd really recommend, a set by Lillian Liu and another one by Kate Woodman, she has a really cinematic style. So we have their actions too. And then what I'm working on now is, so I have a color course on there where I go through, so you guys know that I went through these adjustment layers, but I didn't go in detail because we just don't have the time. But I recently released a color course, and I actually go through each and every adjustment layer that I use, and I go into detail about what it does, so that if you're not familiar, you can get really familiar with it very quickly and create your own colors really quickly and effectively because you know what you can do. Yeah, it's
And you
really
also
fun. I'm always adding things on there because it's just, I love playing in colors, so it just made sense to like share that passion.
And do you also have any like creative retreats or photography workshops coming up, or is that all
We've
up in the air
canceled
now?
everything.
Yeah.
We had the retreat in Bali and that was sold out, and I was so excited for it. But it got cancelled, and then I actually was planning a really beautiful fairy tale workshop here in the UK because I haven't done one in the UK in years, and I wanted to like make this one banging. But we cancelled that too because it's a weird year.
Very weird, yeah. But when it all comes back to a calm place, I'm sure you'll be putting them all on again, and everyone can look out for that if you want to get real hands-on and learn Bella's processes. And yeah, she runs a lot of very cool things. All right. Well, thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording.